Thank you very much, Program Director, Ambassador Matu Joini. Allow me to greet all the colleagues and leaders who are joining us today. The State Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Norway, State Secretary Hagen, our African Union Special Envoy, my dear sister, our Envoy for Women, Peace and Security, Her Excellency Benita Diop. Madam, it's wonderful to see you again. Our Executive Director of UN Women, my dear sister, Her Excellency Dr. Pumzile Mlambo Nguga, and so many distinguished men and women, ambassadors, high commissioners who join us today, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin by thanking you all for your contributions this afternoon and by welcoming you to this, the 2020 Gertrude Shope Annual Dialogue Forum. I also wish to acknowledge and thank our partners, specifically the Office of the Special Envoy of the African Union and the Government of the Kingdom of Norway, and as always, our Executive Director and the Office of UN Women. This forum that we also dearly support is named after a stalwart, a revolutionary, and one of the pioneering gender activists of South Africa, Mama Gertrude Shope. We wish Ma Shope well following the celebration of her 95th birthday last week. I attended the virtual celebration and it was wonderful to hear all the tributes being paid to her. Later in this program, I will have the opportunity to pay tribute to this compelling figure whose legendary contribution to the fight against the denial of human rights and women's rights has bequeathed to us a rich and illuminating legacy which continues to inspire gender struggles in South Africa more than 66 years after her tenacious struggle to expand the contours of the meaning of freedom. Our dialogue, as my colleagues have said, is taking place under the unusual circumstances of a virtual portal platform because of this COVID-19 global pandemic, which has so redefined our normal way of doing business in all corners of the world. While meeting in this way might seem uncomfortable for those of us who much prefer, as I do, the traditional mode of engagement, this so-called new normal is one which allows us to reach audiences that we would not normally, as this dialogue forum, have access to. I make reference to my preference for the physical as I recall meeting colleagues in this restricted environment of COVID-19 and rushing to hug them and seeing the look of horror on their faces as they fear I may bring COVID-19 to them. This is the new normal in which we all live today. We hope that the Women, Peace and Security Dialogue will reach as wide an audience as possible, as we try to do today, in order to communicate the message of peace and security to all women. But as we celebrate or make use of this new mode, let us not forget that it also excludes millions of women who do not yet have access to digital technologies. And so our future of inclusion, our future of achieving the gender equality agenda must give consideration to digital inclusion. This is one of the key lessons emerging from the COVID-19 experience. I believe the theme of our forum is an extremely important one in looking at the role women will continue to play in peace building but also asserting the need for building the architecture for peace during the COVID-19 experience and beyond. I think the theme echoes how the merging of current conditions has begun to shape the experience faced by women all over the world. Both on our continent of Africa and the world over, women and children are being disproportionately affected by violent conflict in terms of their social experience, their economic experience, the experience of civil war, and the experience of extremism and terrorism. What we need to do is to devise ways for women to be the leaders and the arbiters in securing peace and security in these difficult conditions. We also need to ensure that as we gather in forums such as this one, we also support the creation of enduring institutions which will ensure lasting peace, stability, and security for women and all members of communities post-conflict. Under the current difficult circumstances, we have seen very worrying trends emerge. For example, in the lockdown period in South Africa, we've seen heightened domestic violence against women and against children. We have seen women not enjoying access to economic opportunity because as governments formulate interventions to support their economies, their attention is toward the formal economic structure and far less toward those micro-industries where women are the leading participants. So we have to ensure that as we look at recovery post-COVID-19, we address these invisible areas of policy attention so that women do not continue to be excluded from recovery efforts. I believe that this forum will consider all these issues and will propose appropriate responses to meet the challenges we identified during the COVID-19 emergency challenge. This year, as my colleagues have said, has a number of milestones which mark the struggle for gender equality. These include the end of the AU Decade of African Women, the 25th anniversary of the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, the 5th anniversary of the Sustainable Development Goals. I can't believe it's already 5 years. And significantly, the 20th anniversary of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. All of these milestones provide an ideal historical background that should strengthen our determination and give impetus to our efforts to put the gender agenda at the center of international awareness. And in that regard, I welcome the commitments indicated by our colleague from Norway as to the agenda that will be driven by Norway as she takes up her seat as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. Our union, the African Union, has declared the year 2020 theme as that huge aspiration of silencing the guns in order to create conducive conditions for Africa's development. Our theme highlights the challenge of peace in Africa and serves for us as a call to action. It also links Africa's development to sustainable peace, since we believe in the AU that there can be no development without durable conditions of peace and stability. There are, of course, important overlaps between our AU theme and the theme of this forum, and I think this link is of great significance as we pursue our Women, Peace and Security program. But what I think we should emphasize is that the Gertrude Shope Annual Forum has boldly articulated the role of women in the link between these two themes. And it has also ensured that the context of today of COVID-19 and its effects are similarly integrated. So I think as the forum we have a compass of a set of interlinked, difficult issues that should tease our minds to seek for appropriate solutions. We all know, as colleagues, that crises have a very negative effect on women in particular. When there is civil conflict, women are affected. When there's political conflict in our countries, women are affected. When there are natural disasters, women are affected. Communities are disrupted, and women disproportionately bear the brunt at multiple levels. So linking the connections between women and peace by emphasizing the role of women as mediators and peace builders is an important response to the narrative that sometimes depicts women as helpless or passive recipients of the outcome of crises. This forum proves that women at all levels of society are extremely capable of taking the initiative to contribute to a high-level human agenda. We've seen through COVID-19 that conventional modes of social engagement have really put an end to our programs in addressing many of the conditions confronted by women. I think as the Gertrude Shope Annual Forum, we should take stock of the impact of this global health emergency and begin to rethink our traditional approach to the challenge of violence against women. Because violence might not be physical, violence may be social. And we should ensure that the efforts we put in place are adaptive and are very fit for purpose. So, for example, the challenge of the pandemic has been for many of our countries a severe health emergency. And we have noted in the health professional component of our society, there aren't enough women health professionals. We've noted in the research being undertaken in response to the pandemic, you don't have a significant number of women researchers participating in the search for new diagnostics, for new treatments, for a vaccine. So we've got to address all these intersections of inequality to ensure that women take their place in the world. I believe that we should give attention to three key areas as the forum. The first is to ensure that our forum doesn't suffer any reversal of fortunes on the progress we have made so far in our WPS agenda. We have to find different ways of doing things better. The second area we should give attention to is how do we silence the guns in Africa? And I believe those guns do not just refer to an open armed conflict. They refer to all situations of change. So the revolution in Sudan requires us to ensure women participate in the front line. The changes that will be attendant to the conflict in Libya mean women must be prepared to participate in the reconstruction processes in Libya. So we must ensure that all the different conflicts on the continent are part of the empowerment and training that the forum provides. I also believe, thirdly, that we should acknowledge, support, and build on the difference that women are making in local communities, driven by their own initiative. We don't have all the answers. They may very well lie within a community. There are many women peace builders on the ground, working extremely hard for peace, with or without the presence or support of a state institution. We have seen remarkable resilience that women are demonstrating in local communities. And we need to find a way of giving them recognition so that we can build on the work that they are doing. South Africa is a good example of the resilience that we see among women, particularly with regard to peace building in several communities that have experienced deep conflict. Of course, as State Secretary Hagan has said, we need to maintain our vigilance on the question of adhering to the Women, Peace and Security global commitments. And I'm pleased to indicate that today it will be announced that the Cabinet of South Africa has adopted our action plan on women, peace and security finally. This forum, therefore, as I conclude, is for me an important platform for strengthening our commitment to the women, peace and security agenda. And I look forward to continuing with our partners the strong collaboration we have built since its inception. I then wish to close by thanking you all once again and to assuring you of the commitment of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation to this important forum, but more specifically to the global agenda of women, peace and security. Thank you very much, Program Director.